Welcome back to another episode of A Mental Health Break with Vincent A. Lanci. I'm Vincent A. Lanci, speaker, coach, and author of the books Mr. Lanci Talks Mental Health and Left for Dead, A Story of Redemption.
Hey, and I'm Wilson Bautista Jr.
When I was 21 years old, I was the victim of a hit-and-run accident while walking home from a friend's birthday. After coming out of a coma and suffering from a traumatic brain injury, or you may know of as a TBI, I soon realized that it was time to put my mental health on a very high pedestal. This transformative experience has led me to create a podcast that is all things mental health. This experience has also led me to create the book, Mr. Lanci Talks Mental Health. Would it add value to your life to hear mental health professionals and advocates share their authentic stories related to mental health? If you answered yes, you came to the right place. I want to start by congratulating you for making your mental health a priority. If you enjoyed today's episode, please rate the show 5 stars and continue listening by subscribing. On this episode, I'm happy to introduce a guest that I happily discovered during an interview on my other podcast series, What It's Really Like to Be an Entrepreneur. As we were recording, mental health came up a few times. I learned he was a mental health advocate who uses his story to help others through similar disparities. I love being able to frequently share doctors' perspectives as well as advocates so we get the best of both worlds. So allow me to please introduce Wilson Bautista Jr. Wilson, thank you so much for coming on this show.
Hey, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Would you mind please introducing yourself to our listeners a little further and previewing your story before we dive in and get going? And please share your role relating to mental health.
Yeah, hi. My name is Wilson Bautista Jr. I'm a retired military officer. I started in the United States Marines and retired out of the North Carolina National Guard. I've been deployed to Afghanistan and really had a hard time over there that a lot of my experiences led to what I have is called post-traumatic stress disorder. So it's been a journey. I've been out of active service now for almost 10 years. And in those 10 years, I've definitely learned a lot about myself, a lot of self-reflection, and a lot of healing has happened between now and then. And so mental health is a big thing that I'd like to advocate for, especially for veterans, because nobody understands the veteran mindset like somebody that's been in the military. So again, I really appreciate you having me on the show, and I look forward to getting on with it.
Absolutely. And you couldn't be more right. People resonate with those in similar situations. If they hear a story of someone who's been in their shoes, literally, it might just hit home a little more. They might open up their mind a bit and actually give a chance to what you're saying. So thank you for coming on, Wilson. And on each episode, I share a mental health story of someone who is famous because I want to let you, the listeners, know you are not alone. I want you to understand that even though someone looks like they are healthy from the outside, they may not be on the inside too. And for today's episode, I will introduce the mental health related story of World Series champion and MVP David Freese. This Major League Baseball player has had struggles with depression and alcohol abuse. Freese has had 3 drunken driving incidents during his career with the St. Louis Cardinals, however, crashed into a tree on Thanksgiving Day 2012. Freese grew up in Missouri and says that playing near home probably exacerbated his issues, where he said, quote, "Who knows where I was headed? As long as I was here, I had so many friends here, I wasn't good at just saying no. I wanted to please these people, make everyone happy, and that became impossible. It just worsened with my depression. There were days it was so bad that I didn't want to get out of bed." You know, and I want to end with one more powerful quote because they were so strong. He said, quote, "I know I had the alcohol issues in the past, but you come to realize that it's a lot deeper than that. It's depression and anxiety issues. I had to attack the way I was thinking. I retrained my brain by being around Marion and getting help. The foggy feeling I always had is now lifted." Wilson, what do you take away from that story?
You know, I thought that this was a very good story because a lot of folks turn to alcohol to numb the reality. And I mean, I've seen it. I can understand that myself because as somebody that likes to drink adult beverages, you know, that sometimes it makes you feel a little bit better, but it's also a depressant. So,
Yes.
you know, coming from the mental health standpoint, that's why folks that are having some issues turn to alcohol for these things, but then it's also a depressant, right? And it could just deepen um, deepen your emotions and how you feel and leave you, um, I guess, feeling better for the moment, but then again, you're going to have to realize that you have a reality to also face as well. Um, and I would say that anxiety and depression, they're so complicated, right? And it's really difficult to even imagine what someone's going through unless you've kind of been through that. And in order for you to really retrain your brain, as they say, is you have to surround yourself with people that that support you, that understand what you're going through,
Mhm.
and really do some self-help, some self-healing. So I think that the story is kind of attributed to that the steps that he had to take in order to get to where he is today.
That's incredible insight. And also with alcohol, it's so easily accessible and it's legal. So people are starting drinking young, like we all are. And now when it gets to a point when they're at this age, they're starting to feel the effects of it related to mental health. And, it just goes to show you this is a World Series MVP and things weren't what they seemed on the outside. So everybody listening on, keep fighting through whatever you're going through and you will get through it. But I think it's a great time to get into the main event. On each episode, my guest and I go over this series of 6 questions to help others improve their mental health. You ready to go, Wilson?
Yeah, let's do it.
Great. So many would agree that the more common or at least talked about types of mental disparities are mood disorders, anxiety disorders, or schizophrenia disorders. What areas do you come across the most?
I would say anxiety and mood. It could be rather difficult to explain this to folks, but we talk about triggers,
Mm-hmm.
right? So some triggers that I have, and which are common with um, veterans that have PTSD, are things that have to deal with lack of control. Like, for instance, having your back to exit points, or to people that, or groups of people that you don't know. We want to make sure that we know where, if some trouble does happen, we want to be able to see the exit and go to it. Also, dealing with crowds of people, you have to focus on, um, well, you just don't have any control over that. So in the minimal amount of people in a room,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of folks will probably feel better about that, because then they could assess the situation. So yeah, it's one of these things that we talk about when we talk about mood. It could affect our mood, and as well as anxiety. So it could be a challenge.
I like how you put that too. Just accepting that it is going to be a challenge and you work around it, I think is very, very key. But can you describe that moment for us when you realized that taking a stance on mental health, being an advocate for some awareness, was going to be the right path for you?
Yeah, so I think that one of the things one of the things that I really noticed about finding an opportunity, a career, and is trying to also find the organization that supports mental health. Um, I don't need to deal with workplace bullying,
Mm-hmm.
right? I don't need to deal with toxic work environments. So this becomes one of the criteria for me to find a place to either have clients, or I suggest to people to have an opportunity to choose them as an option if they have these things available to them. So my role in one of my nonprofit that I put out there is called Cyber Ohana Project. And one of the things that I do focus on is soft skill development, and looking at different organizations that folks that are interested in careers in cybersecurity, they look at organizations as not just, I want to have a job, but also, will this organization be good for my mental health, right? So I think that as a CEO and founder of this nonprofit that supports veterans explore careers in cybersecurity, that it's my job to say, hey, yeah, I've had my issues, and these are the things that are important to me, to look for in a company in regards to mental health. This should be also one of those qualifying criteria for you, not just to get a job, but also to see if the company has the same values and that it doesn't impact your tranquility.
Yeah. Have you been able to connect with veterans across the country with the nonprofit?
Yeah, I have. It's we just started, right? So within the last year, we started our training and community platform to support veterans throughout this career change, especially as they're transitioning out of the service, um, because transitioning into something new is difficult as it is already.
Mm.
And so, what I wanted to do is take my story and be able to say, hey, yeah, I understand that you're going to be going through this rough transitional time, and it could be very anxiety ridden, but I just like to say is like you're going to go through a rough road, and I feel that it's my responsibility, as a leader and as a fellow veteran, to say, hey, you're going to go through this rough road. I'm going to try to make it a little bit smoother for you through somebody that's been there and done that.
I love that. That's awesome, man. I wish you the best of luck with that nonprofit. I definitely would encourage you at the end of the episode to give me some links to put in the show bio for that nonprofit when we air it. But what advice can you give to our listeners from your experiences, of course, as what may be considered a potential early sign that they may be developing a mental illness?
Okay, so the story that we read before is that, we have this gentleman that wanted to please everybody.
Mhm.
And I remember as a young person and somebody that's wanting to be successful in the career, is that you want to make people like you, and you want, your bosses to like you. And what that turns into is you try to become a people pleaser. And and if they don't like you, then what happens is that you start to get into this mode of, why don't they like me? you
Mhm.
know and it's just like, they should I'm doing my best, I'm a good person, and then you start questioning your own reality.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that would be a first sign. It's like, hey, are you a people pleaser? Right? Do you just go around and, just want to make everybody happy all the time? Because, one of the things that I've learned from being a people pleaser is that you can't please everybody, and that
Possible.
you waste a lot of energy on trying to, waste a lot of energy and positivity on trying to please everybody. So you have to be comfortable with yourself to say, yeah, I can't please everybody. I'm doing the best that I can. This is who I am. And if they don't like that, then that's tough.
Mhm.
And, I mean, of course, you're going to have to build yourself and make sure that you're socially responsible and you're doing what you need to be doing as far as being a great human being. But you can't you can't control that. You can't control other people. The other early signs is, if you allow yourself to be impacted by what people say, right? I think that when you allow people to say things to you, and it impacts you in such a negative way that you just, I guess, brood over it for days, for weeks, that could be a sign that's saying, hey, I need to learn how to let go.
Yeah, like everything you said there, that lifestyle of pleasing everybody, we all know people like that, but that is very detrimental lifestyle to your mental health. As you described, we need to focus on things like self-love, self-care. We need to put ourselves in the position to succeed. But again, from your experiences, if you could pick three, and I say only three because I would love the three most important things our listeners can do on a daily or short-term basis to improve their mental health, what can you offer our listeners, Wilson?
On daily basis, let's see, three things and just three. So, the first one I would say is reflection, to be
Love
able
that.
to, reflect on your day and really point out the positive things that have happened.
Mhm.
And, um, yeah, and try to not focus on the negative. So that would be one. I like to, because I struggle with anxiety sometimes.
Mhm.
I like to write in a worry log, like a worry journal, and I find that writing away my worries or the things that are just running in my mind help me come to a resolution to some extent. So I would suggest that. And the other thing, I would say the last thing is probably to take a walk,
Mhm.
right? Take a walk and get away from the noise of life, right? And what I mean by noise is, like you have social media, you have TV, you have friends, you have, work, you have all of these things. Just take a walk, reduce the amount of noise, use this time to self-reflect and enjoy just, being outside and realizing that, today is a new day and tomorrow is going to be a new day too.
I love the nature recommendation. I am big with getting outside, getting some air. People hear exercise, they always think, oh, squats, weightlifting, all these things. No, exercising also includes walking. And I'm sure you can agree with me with your experience in exercise over the years in the military. Mental health benefits from exercise are just as important as physical benefits.
Yep.
Whenever I get some exercise in, I'm always thinking much more clearly and am able to attack my goals better.
Yeah, definitely.
But those are great short-term initiatives, Wilson. Let's delve a little deeper here. What commitments can you offer our listeners long-term to help create a healthier mental headspace?
So I think that one of the things that have helped me become more positive, and have a lot of I would say like the feel good factor is that I love to help people, right? I think that volunteering your time is a good way to make yourself feel good about what you're doing, that you are making an impact, not just for yourself by feeling good, but also to somebody else who is possibly going through a rough time.
I like that. Yeah.
Even working at like the homeless shelter or a food pantry, and giving food to folks that have a lot less than we have, or going through their own mental struggles and their own life struggles. That would be good. So if you could focus on giving back, that would be one long-term commitment your listeners can have to have a healthier mindset. And the other is to surround yourself, or keep on surrounding yourself with networks that enhance your positivity. And I'm not talking about people that are just feel good all the time, right? Just be
Mhm.
like, oh yeah, everything's great, everything's awesome. But people that will challenge your perspective in a constructive way.
I like
People
that.
that will tell you that, hey, you might want to think about this another way. People that will challenge you to be the best self that you can be. And that takes time, right? It's not like one of these, like you go to like a week-long power session with folks and everybody's great for 5 days, 5 business days, and then everybody rolls out and that's it. No, you need to find people that are going to support you, and really work on that positive network, not just because you may have some mental health issues, just because residually these people will be your backbone for when times do get tough.
I
And
love
you
that.
may play,
Yes.
yeah, you may play an important part in their lives too, by providing them the positive feedback that they need during their times of duress.
Especially during this time, you have no idea what people are going through. In my book, Mr. Lanci Talks Mental Health, something I highlight is being supportive of others, but also for yourself. You have to take care of yourself, and you have to have positive people around you, not people who aren't in the same lane as you. People have different goals in life. You want people that are supportive, goal oriented, people that are going to strive to help you make you your best you. But we touched on the nonprofit, Wilson. What are some ways you plan on raising awareness for the importance of mental health in the future?
So what I like to do is I like to talk about my story, not from the nonprofit side, but just from the military side and how it um, impacts cybersecurity, right? So how I look at mental health and its importance to our cybersecurity professionals. So I take it to the public forum. I like to give presentations at different conferences to do that because everybody knows about mental health in regards to veterans. It's been documented,
Hmm.
it's been studied, but it's something that, like in my industry, is a challenging topic. Mental health is such a taboo topic still,
Everywhere, yeah.
where but everybody's going through it, and it's just making people realize or helping people to identify and recognize that it's an issue, and I want to do that for my industry, as well as the veterans.
Yeah, I think that's really, really inspiring. And I really love what you're doing because you're using your voice in your industry. Wilson, thank you so much for coming on the show. I know the listeners are going to see all the value. Like I said, how you're attacking your industry, letting people know this mental health conversation is okay to speak about. And I think as time passes, you'll be at the forefront of a lot of conversations because of your presence with the military. I think you're doing a very big service to them by letting them know, hey, it's okay. I went through it. Here's what I can help you with. So I appreciate you coming on, Wilson. It is time for the last word. And I also do this in my other podcast series, what it's really like to be an entrepreneur, because I want our listeners to really get to know the guests I bring on. Is there something that you would like to share that we did not get to touch on yet today?
We talk about this phrase like we're in this together.
Hmm.
It's like, yeah, we are in this together. And I think that there's a point in our lives that we're going to be needing to support. We're going to need to have the support of others to lift us up. I want your listeners to say, okay, I've got my network, I've got my folks that are here to support me. What can I do to support them?
Love that.
Right? What can I do to support them? Because I know that they're not going through the same thing as me, but they're going through something. What can I do to support them to make their lives a bit better, to lighten their load, and to make their burden not as burdensome? So I would say it's like, hey, what can I do to make you better? Would be one of the things that I would suggest
I
we
love
all
that.
strive to do.
Very positive the whole episode, so that's very appreciated. Can you now please share your professional social media website, ways for our listeners to follow your services, request your endeavors?
Yeah, so you could follow me on LinkedIn. Just look up Wilson Bautista Jr. I'm there. I'm a cybersecurity professional. You can't miss me. You could also listen to my podcast, DevSec Lead, www.devseclead.com, where I talk about soft subjects or soft topics and soft skill development for cybersecurity professionals. And we talk about leadership, right? And that's something that I'm very passionate about. So those are a couple of ways that you could get in touch with me, and I would love to see you on there.
Be sure to check out all that great content, and it's social media time for the show, and we're on whichever platform you like to use. We're at A Mental Health Break with Vincent A. Lanci on LinkedIn, at A Mental Health Break on Instagram and Facebook, and over on Twitter, we're Podcasts by Lanci, so you get updates from this show and what it's really like to be an entrepreneur. Of course, my handles are at Vincent A. Lanci on all social media and YouTube, and my website is vincentalanci.com. If you check out my books, DM me. I would love to hear from you all. We have Mr. Lanci Talks Mental Health, Left for Dead, A Story of Redemption, and How to Transform Your Mindset When the Norm is Changed. All are on my website now, which is vincentalanci.com. Welcome back to another episode of A Mental Health Break with Vincent A. Lanci. I'm Vincent A. Lanci, speaker, coach, and author of the books Mr. Lanci Talks Mental Health and Left for Dead, A Story of Redemption.